Atheism has to be one of the most, if not the most, foolish religions in the world.
I cannot believe that this is happening right at the start of a Sir video. But here it is. I completely agree with you. It is so dumb as a religion. I mean, for God's non-existent sake, it doesn't do any of the things that a religion is supposed to do. It has none of the things that you would expect of a religion, like a central figure or prophet, sacred texts and or scripture, any kind of formal set of rituals or ceremonies, any established dogma or creed, no concept of the divine or the spiritual, or a moral code derived from some kind of higher power, formal organizational structure, priesthood. It in no way promises an afterlife or salvation, and so much more that it doesn't do. So it is in fact the worst religion ever. If anything, I'm starting to think that it might not be one at all.
Already there's atheists who are wanting to write, it's not a religion, it's the belief in no religion.
Well then, those atheists would in fact be wrong. There are literally atheistic religions. They are religious worldviews that contain atheism because they do not contain any deities. They might be supernatural, but atheism, as I said, makes no specific claims to any kind of supernatural idea because it's simply the fact that a person does not believe in anything one might describe as a god.
No, that is not true. Atheism, by definition, is a belief that there is no God.
That is wrong, but it also contains a nugget of truth that stupid people tend to cling on to. Atheism, by a definition, that is to say the philosophical definition, is basically the statement, there is no God. But the fact that a lot of people will immediately refute you should give you pause. Most atheists will tell you that their atheism is the simple lack of belief in a God. They are unconvinced of the position that theists hold that there is one, but are often otherwise open to being convinced. Unfortunately, the arguments for God tend to be piss poor at best.
It is not the absence of belief in a God, it is the active belief that there is no God.
Okay, even if that was the only definition, in what fucking universe would that make it a religion? I mean, think about it. If religions need a lot more than just I believe in God to be a religion rather than like deism, well, the opposite, by definition, which you allegedly love so much, must also be true. A person who believes in God but follows no faith has no religion. Just like an atheist who follows no faith also holds no religion. Are you starting to understand why that might be a really, really stupid thing to say?
Which is absolutely foolish.
Irony, thy name is Taco Talks. The fuck? Is that like what's inside your head? Just a bunch of ground meat. Although I doubt there's even any spices, that'd be too much for that skull. And to be fair, if you told me that these were the opinions of a piece of food, I would assume that that was a particularly idiotic meal.
In Psalm 14 in the Bible, it says that the fool says in his heart, there is no God.
Sick 1-1, the fool in his heart has said atheism is all this random shit I don't understand. I'm going to go on the internet and make a total tit of myself. That's a good idea, even though Mum told me not to make these stupid videos in the house. That's why I have to do it from the car. Amen.
In Proverbs 9:10, it says, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Well, it would say that, wouldn't it? My thing, you need to believe it, and also be scared that the thing I made up is going to get you. Otherwise, you're a big dummy. But here's the thing about fear. It's often the point where the brain actually kind of switches off, going into survival mode and just trying to continue one's existence. You're running on instinct, basically, when there's simply not enough spare energy to spend on deep philosophical thinking. So you don't. Fear of God is actually the end of wisdom and the beginning of mindless obedience. There's a reason they call you a flock, and it's not because they respect your fucking intellect.
Those two things line up well.
No shit, Sherlock. Again, the Bible telling you things that support itself with yummy circular reasoning are of course going to feed into each other. And it would make some kind of shape that really doesn't come to mind right now.
Because the one who is an atheist, he doesn't fear God. He hates God.
Exactly how many atheists haven't you spoken to? Because I can only assume it's a lot. That statement's condescension is only matched by its utter incorrectness. Atheists don't hate God, not in any real sense. They might find the various characterizations of him distasteful, but the idea that they hate him is about as impactful as someone who fucking hates Joffrey from Game of Thrones. It's not real hate because he's not real. Oh, and if you don't know the difference between the two, one of them is this horrifically evil character who does terrible things all the time while claiming to be the ruler of everyone, yet ultimately having no real power. And the other one is Joffrey.
Desperately hates God and doesn't want him to exist.
I literally don't give a shit if some form of God does or doesn't exist. I do think there would absolutely be versions that would be better or worse, but the concept of wanting no God to exist is patently ridiculous. Also, just a note, you almost certainly don't want your God to exist because apparently he fucking hates liars. Probably even if they do it by accident. And the shit you have said about atheists thus far has been pure, unadulterated bullshit.
Typically the reason that the atheist rejects God is because the atheist is doing something that the atheist knows is absolutely morally disgusting.
Ah, of course, the classic theist psychic. Pretty sure God hates them too. He knows what atheists think, knows what they are all doing, and knows why they think the things they think, while having no fucking idea what they actually think or why they do anything, because he's a fucking moron. The irony of this statement is that statistically, there are a ton of atheists who are not only moral people by the vast majority of even your standards, but their morality often goes far beyond it, being able to completely sidestep the, in your own words, disgusting ideas from an ancient book written by arseholes. Unless, of course, you think that owning people is fine, sexual assault is not a big deal, and the occasional genocide is just what the doctor ordered. When I don't think I give a fuck what you think to be morally anything.
Or is in support of something that is absolutely morally disgusting, and they don't want to be held accountable for that which they're actively partaking in.
Now, I'll admit, I could be completely wrong, and if I am, I apologize unreservedly. But there's no way that's not just, I also think gays are icky. Which also translates into, I'm a giant piece of shit. But again, hopefully I'm just wrong and he has no idea what the hell he's even saying.
But for anyone to actually try to make the claim that they don't believe in God is pretty absurd.
Imagine having a brain so absolutely teeny tiny, so absurdly small, so catastrophically minuscule that you couldn't even for a second think the thought, hey, maybe not everybody thinks the exact same thoughts that I do. Your complete inability to entertain an idea without accepting it is a philosophical character flaw so big that you could drive a fucking bus through it. At no point in my life has it ever even occurred to me to think, why do all these people pretend to disagree with me when it's obvious that my thoughts are the only ones that could possibly exist? You, sir, are a fucking moron, and you really need to learn how to do any kind of critical thinking. Christ.
For a few reasons. First and foremost, the Bible is absolutely objectively truth.
No.
It is amazing. It is impossible that the Bible exists.
Yep, totally impossible for someone to make up a bunch of shit, steal a bunch of other shit from other things written before it, include some relatively historical world building to make idiots think that everything else must be accurate then, and then for said morons to spread it around the world, convincing people of its accuracy by using shit arguments and yet more circular reasoning. That's never happened before a ton of times, and hasn't happened since a bunch more, and will continue to happen for fucking ever. The funniest thing about this garbage is that it could have included plenty of actually impossible shit, like actual predictions that weren't either things in itself then happening in itself, or so vague that it could apply to literally any situation. Imagine if it included a complete circuit diagram of a microprocessor, or a full and complete explanation of how the internet works, or a bunch of world-changing technologies that we haven't even thought of even today that would provide cheap energy and produce to all the people of the world, proving itself to be the actual book to bring world peace. That would in fact be a miracle. But you'd have to be all-knowing and all-powerful to do that, and God's nothing if he's not completely fucking useless all the time.
And yet it does. We'll get into more videos on that. But
oh God, I hope not. That but is clearly and completely full of shit.
Romans chapter 1, verse 18. It tells us that every single person knows that God exists, but we suppress the truth in unrighteousness.
Do you think it's ever occurred to folks like this that maybe, just maybe, using the Bible to prove the Bible to people who think the Bible is utter dross might not be all that compelling? It's like trying to use the Dune series to explain the benefits of spice, how to avoid sandworms, and maybe if you're going to get into a knife fight with personal shields, you should also wear a stab jacket, and then being surprised when someone says, yeah, but that is all made up, you know that, right? What's wrong with you?
Meaning it is out of our sinfulness, it is out of our hatred towards God that we actually deceive ourselves to the level that we actually do believe that there is no God.
Wait. I thought you said we did believe in God, but now we don't? You can't have it both ways, my dude. Also, the way you put it makes it sound like you don't believe in God, which is a very funny thing to do on accident. But no, people don't believe in God, usually because the arguments, like these ones, are incredibly unconvincing. Especially when, like these ones, they are obvious attempts at appeals to emotion rather than anything approaching one's intellect. But that's probably because you don't actually have one.
We make ourselves completely foolish by
your big dumb stupid brain. Yes, that's because you think that everyone on Earth both has the exact same opinions as you and at the same time somehow doesn't. You think that you know why other people do anything ever, when I posit that you probably have no idea why you do or say the things you do, since that takes some level of self-awareness and you have about as much as a moldy sock, and so on and so forth. Honestly, it almost impresses me how much of a fool you've made of yourself so far. Keep it up, it's hilarious.
Sinfulness, by our ignorance.
Yes.
To the point that we literally start to pretend that there is no God.
What if I told you that I'm not pretending? That I in fact do not believe in any kind of God, biblical or otherwise, and the thing is, this asinine claim also essentially dismisses anyone who does believe in the wrong God, as also pretending that your God doesn't exist. Again, this is an absurd notion that would quickly be remedied by actually talking to someone of that faith, who would more than likely call you a smug fucking moron who has no idea what he's talking about. But that is only because that's exactly what you are. I mean, look at that fucking face.
That is absolutely absurd. That is ridiculous.
Yes, you're right. Everything you have said thus far is absolutely absurd and ridiculous, and anyone who believes the things you say would be ridiculous and absurd as well. Lucky for you, they don't, because what you have done is invent a person in your head who believes things that basically fucking no one believes, and then you just run with it. As you say, absurd and ridiculous. Perhaps stop.
If you look at the world, it is truly impossible to try to pretend that there's no such thing as God.
Okay then, I won't pretend. I'll just not believe like I was already doing. But the thing is, look at the world, therefore God is just an argument from incredulity. That you think there's no other explanation for the existence of the everything doesn't mean there isn't. There are in fact a ton of them. And the real humdinger is that they are, for the most part, actually supported by goddamn evidence. They are in fact facts about how those things came to be the way they are, and do not need God did it as any kind of explanation. Very shonk, I know.
Literally every aspect of the world is proof that there is a God.
Is it though? I mean, you're again doing the pretty therefore God fallacy, but the thing is, there are things in the world that make no sense in your rubric. They are things that an all-loving God that made the universe just for us wouldn't do by any version of logical reason. In fact, the universe as I see it, to me, is proof that there likely is no God. because everything about it makes sense in a universe without one. Bad things happening for no reason, us being unable to survive in the vast majority of space. It makes sense if it wasn't made for us. The fact that other people exist and walk slowly in front of me on paths. Absolutely impossible in a universe with a loving God. Everything you could point at and tell me that's cause God, I bet you that I could find a reason why the opposite would be true.
Literally every single part is proof that there is a God, that there is a creator.
I mean, it's really not. But even if it was, it would absolutely 100% be impossible for you to then know anything about that God. And you certainly wouldn't be able to give him a bunch of random characteristics without making some incredible assumptions about such a being. All you would know is a guy made a thing. Not the how, not the why, and certainly nothing about what the fucker wants.
Now, if that creator is the God of the Bible, then that would then be proof of the God of the Bible.
I know this is going to blow your teensy-tiny, minuscule, massive brain, but no, it really wouldn't. The same way that the existence of various natural phenomena aren't proof that our early flawed understandings of them were correct. Even if the God in the Bible was the exact same guy in reality, that wouldn't mean all that much, if not most of the claims it made about him weren't completely wrong. People can write things about real events and people that are completely fabricated. The existence of the things doesn't change that.
So let's talk about that. See, the same way that this Tacoma was not built by itself, the world was not created by itself.
No, you're right again. It wasn't created by itself, but you're completely wrong about the reason for that to be the case. Obviously, why break the habit of a lifetime? It's because it formed via processes that did not need anyone doing them. Therefore, they more than likely weren't overseen by Cosmo Tyrant de jure. Because the simple fact is, why would you do something that you literally don't even need to do? Kinda sounds like wasted effort, don't you think?
The world, the creation, needs to have a creator.
Well, since it absolutely doesn't need a creator because of the natural processes, etc., that means there's no need for a creator. Therefore, by your own shitty quote-unquote logic, there is no creator, aka there is no God. Checkmate theism. Bye!